Welcome back to Kleppers Corner. Today in History, the show where we dig into the past so deeply you'll wonder if I'm trying to strike oil. Spoiler, I'm not. Though if Chevron wants to sponsor me, I'll sell it faster than a Netflix password. Today's date, August 28th, is like the Costco of history. You walk in for one item and you leave with Emmett Till, Martin Luther King Jr., Hurricane Katrina, Colin Kaepernick, Pepsi, Netflix, and Wagner's opera all somehow in your cart. It's the single busiest day in the historical clearance aisle. So buckle up, because August 28th is proof that history doesn't just repeat itself. It schedules all of its callbacks for the same damn day. Segment 1, The Sacrifice, the lynching of Emmett Till, 1955. August 28, 1955, Emmett Till is murdered in Mississippi, and America is forced to stare directly into its own racial nightmare. Till, a 14-year-old from Chicago, whistled or maybe smiled at a white woman, depending on which racist fever dream you believe, and that was enough for two grown men to torture and kill him. And then they got acquitted in under an hour. You know it's bad when even Amazon's one-click checkout takes longer than your murder trial. Mamie Till Mobley, his mother, made the world look. She demanded an open casket funeral and said, "Let the people see what they did to my boy." Jet magazine published the photos. America saw, and it couldn't unsee. That decision was as catalytic to the civil rights movement as Rosa Parks' refusal or MLK's megaphone. Without Mamie Till, the brutality stays hidden. Instead, it was published and passed around like the world's darkest group text. And what did the killers do after? They sold their confession to Look magazine for $4,000. Murder for profit. America, where even your war crimes get a book deal. Jeff Bezos is probably kicking himself he didn't have Kindle Unlimited back then. Segment 2, The Dream, the March on Washington, 1963. 8 years later, August 28, 1963. Same date, same country, very different story. Over 200,000 people marched on Washington for jobs and freedom. Jobs and freedom, not Wi-Fi and brunch, actual survival-level demands. The marchers stood before the Lincoln Memorial, demanding America live up to its receipt of freedom, which at that point had been lost longer than most of us have lost remote controls. Dr. King delivered the I Have a Dream speech, though the first half is less about dreams and more about America bouncing checks. He basically told the country, "You owe us equality," and the check came back NSF. America was literally Bank of America in black people. And yet, thanks to that speech, school kids today think the march was just about good vibes. Nope, they also wanted jobs, fair wages, voting rights. Boring things like not being treated like trash in your own country. And the organizers? Bayard Rustin managed the whole thing with no internet, no cell phones, and somehow fewer glitches than Ticketmaster. Honestly, if he were alive today, Taylor Swift would have him on retainer. Segment 3, The Echo, Hurricane Katrina, 2005. Fast forward 50 years. August 28th, 2005. Hurricane Katrina slams into the Gulf Coast. The storm made landfall, the levees broke, and the federal response was slower than me trying to assemble IKEA furniture with no Allen wrench. Thousands were stranded in New Orleans, mostly poor, mostly black, where politicians told us everything was under control. Spoiler, it was not. Katrina was the cruel reminder that even after civil rights acts and voting rights acts, systemic racism and poverty don't wash away. They flood. And while the Bush administration fiddled, people drowned. America discovered that disaster relief really meant press conferences and finger pointing. FEMA's big plan seemed to be wait until Kanye West goes on live TV and says George Bush doesn't care about black people, which, let's face it, was the most effective emergency broadcast of 2005. Segment 4, The Symbol, Obama's nomination, 2008. 3 years later, August 28, 2008, Barack Obama accepts the Democratic nomination on the anniversary of the March on Washington. The symbolism was not subtle. It was like America saying, hey, remember that dream? Let's beta test it. Obama on stage was hope incarnate, proof that the dream had legs, but also proof that America loves symbols. Because once he got in office, people forgot symbols don't fix structural inequality. You can elect a black president, but that doesn't erase Emmett Till, Katrina, or systemic racism. You just get Fox News yelling socialist every time he wore a tan suit. Still, the timing was deliberate, almost cinematic. It felt like history had a screenwriter who finally nailed the callback. Segment 5, The Protest, Kaepernick, 2016. August 28th, 2016, Colin Kaepernick kneels. Not trips, not stretches, kneels. And the nation loses its collective mind. People screamed he was disrespecting the troops, as though the troops fought wars so Americans could be forced to stand during a song written by a guy who owned slaves. Kaepernick was protesting police brutality, systemic racism. Basically, he was the 2016 remix of the March on Washington, but with cleats. And while critics called it unpatriotic, history says otherwise. August 28th is the day of Emmett Till, of King's dream. Kaepernick wasn't disrespecting the flag. He was pointing out that America still hadn't cashed the check King talked about in '63. The flag was still bouncing. Segment 6, The Empire. Britain abolishes slavery, 1833. Back in 1833, August 28th saw Britain abolish slavery across its empire. Sounds noble, right? Well, the fine print. Enslaved people got apprenticeships, which was basically slavery with a different LinkedIn title, while slave owners got 20 million pounds in compensation. That's like burning down your neighbor's house, then invoicing them for emotional damages. And taxpayers in Britain kept paying off that debt until 2015. Imagine, you're in London in 2014 buying a pint, and part of that money goes to some aristocrat's great-great-grandfather because he lost property in 1833. That's not reparations. That's reparations for the oppressors. Britain said, we're ending slavery, but also here's a golden parachute for the guys who owned the parachutes. Segment 7, The Meltdown, Chicago DNC, 1968. August 28, 1968, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Outside, thousands of anti-war protesters. Inside, Democrats tearing each other apart. And presiding over it all, Mayor Richard Daley, who treated free speech like it was an unpaid parking ticket. Unacceptable. Police beat protesters, gassed bystanders, even smacked journalists on live TV. It was called a police riot, which is like calling a shark attack a fish misunderstanding. The chaos helped sink Hubert Humphrey's campaign and handed Richard Nixon the presidency. Great job, Democrats. You wanted unity, and instead you gave America Watergate on layaway. Segment 8, The Brands, Science, Pepsi, and Netflix. August 28th is also the day of brand building. 1845, Scientific American begins publishing, basically BuzzFeed for science nerds, but with fewer quizzes about which lab rat you are. 1898, Brad's drink becomes Pepsi Cola, which is hilarious because Pepsi was literally marketed as a digestive aid. That means millions of us have been drinking what started as carbonated Pepto-Bismol. No wonder it goes so well with Taco Bell. 1922, the first paid radio ad airs selling apartments in Queens because nothing says the dawn of commercial broadcasting like gentrification. 1997, Netflix is born. It started as DVD rentals by mail, then evolved into destroying Blockbuster, Hollywood, and our sleep schedules. Netflix invented binge watching, which is really just staying up until 4 a.m. while asking, are you still watching? Yes, Netflix, I'm still watching. I'm also dying. Segment 9, The Opera, Wagner's Lohengrin, 1850. August 28th, 1850, Wagner's opera Lohengrin premieres. The famous part? The bridal chorus, or as you know it, Here Comes the Bride. Yes, Wagner accidentally invented wedding TikTok music. Irony? Wagner wasn't even there. He was exiled for trying to overthrow the government. So the most popular wedding song of all time was written by a guy who couldn't commit to staying in his own country. Segment 10, The Lives, Augustine, Goethe, Seton, Olmsted. And the birthdays and deaths on August 28th? Augustine of Hippo dies in 430, giving us Original Sin and the City of God. Basically, the theologian who made Catholic guilt a franchise. Goethe, born 1749, the German literary goat. He wrote Faust, which is basically Breaking Bad, but with demons instead of meth. Elizabeth Ann Seton, born 1774, started the U.S. Catholic school system. Without her, half of America's kids wouldn't know the trauma of plaid uniforms. And Frederick Law Olmsted, dead in 1903, the father of American parks. Central Park, Prospect Park, even Yosemite. Without Olmsted, we'd just be picnicking in parking lots. So what do we learn from August 28th? That history loves a theme. This date is civil rights, protest, branding, opera, and soda all rolled into one. It's proof that progress is messy, cyclical, and occasionally carbonated. August 28th shows us America at its worst. Emmett Till, Katrina, police riots. And at its best, the March on Washington, Obama's nomination, Kaepernick's protest. It's a date that reminds us history doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals. And sometimes it spirals right into your Netflix queue.